It's 10 o'clock. I'm Matt Barbet. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. The Home Secretary vows to restore order to the immigration system as the number of small boat crossings passes 30,000. Russia launches its biggest ever aerial attack on Ukraine since the war began, hitting a government building in the capital. Donald Trump's pledge to clean up America's cities after a weekend of protests.
We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
The London-born teenager known as God's influencer, today officially recognised as a saint by Pope Leo. Plus, a path to freedom in the shadow of war, the teenagers turning to basketball in South Sudan. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages and our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. The newly appointed Home Secretary tonight moved swiftly to pledge she would restore order after the number of channel crossings this year passed 30,000 in record time. A total of 1,097 people arrived in small boats yesterday, the second highest number so far this year. And after a summer of protests outside hotels, ministers are now considering using former military bases to house asylum seekers. The campaigners say that option could lead to more legal challenges. The Conservative government did plan to use 5 former military sites in England and Wales to temporarily house migrants. 2 of them are still in use today. Napier Barracks in Folkestone in Kent can house up to 328 people. Living conditions there have been described as squalid. The former RAF base, which is in Braintree in Essex, has a maximum capacity of 1,700, but charities say the facilities there are prison-like. Army training camp Penally near Tenby in Wales was used for 6 months from September 2020 and housed up to 250 men at its peak. 2 other sites were considered, RAF Scampton in Lincolnshire and Catterick Garrison in North Yorkshire, but both were deemed to be unsuitable. Sky's Laura Bundock has more now.
In the early hours, another small boat arrives on the Kent coast. Its crossing ended, its passengers beginning their asylum claims here. But where to house them? Around 30,000 have arrived in the UK this year. One option, moving migrants to former military barracks.
With the Home Office, I have been putting military planners into their border command and into their planning for the future. And we are looking at the potential use of military and non-military use sites for temporary accommodation for the people who come across on these small boats that may not have a right to be here or need to be processed rapidly before we can decide whether or not they should stay or whether or not we deport them.
And strong words from the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. These small boats crossing, she said, are utterly unacceptable, and the vile people smugglers behind them are wreaking havoc on our borders. Thanks to our deal with France, people crossing in small boats can now be detained and removed to France, and I expect the first returns to take place imminently. Protecting the UK border is my priority as Home Secretary, and I'll explore all options to restore order to our immigration system.
The Napier Barracks in Folkestone have housed hundreds of male asylum seekers, but the site has faced fierce opposition, with many saying conditions inside are squalid.
Everything bad. We not have hot water. We not have water for drink.
A few years ago, migrants filmed their accommodation. Those inside now told me things haven't improved. Sally Huff ran a support centre for the men here. She says these kinds of buildings aren't fit for purpose.
Other sites haven't opened because there have been legal challenges. So there will be more legal challenges, and I don't see a way for the government to be able to use more military sites without a lot of opposition.
And why is there so much opposition?
From my point of view, it's on humanitarian grounds. These sites are not fit for human habitation.
Others are also concerned. In Folkestone, we found division.
If it's suitable for people to be in, then yeah, put them in there. because they got to go somewhere.
If they come across on the boat, send them home, send them back.
But it's difficult because so many, and you give up all these hotels to house them, and I don't really know a solution. But in Germany, we also have many migrants, but it doesn't seem to be a problem there.
Recent protests outside migrant hotels highlight the current challenge. There's a commitment to close the controversial use of hotels by 2029. But as they empty out, alternatives must be found. And as the boats keep arriving, they need to be found fast. Laura Bundock, Sky News, Folkestone.
Sky's chief political correspondent John Craig is in Brighton for us this evening. John, you've been hearing from trade unions there today, but the Prime Minister's warning his party is facing the fight of its life.
Well, here at the TUC, the General Secretary, that's Paul Novak, is making his keynote speech in the morning, and he's going to accuse the government of failing to deliver on the change that was promised in the Labour Party manifesto last year. Clearly venting frustration of union members. The TUC is worried about union members voting for reform or poised to vote for reform in elections that are coming up. But of course, Labour's not just losing support to Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party. Potentially, it's going to lose support to left-wing parties like the Green Party and possibly Jeremy Corbyn's new party when it eventually launches. And perhaps controversially, unusually certainly, the new left-wing leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, is going to be speaking here not long after Mr Novak speaks. So clearly we are in a completely new situation. Labour the Prime Minister has completely overhauled his cabinet, 12 new appointments, a new tough approach on small boats from the new Home Secretary straight away. I thought it was interesting in her statement when she said the first returns are imminent. A week ago, when Yvette Cooper gave a statement to MPs when she was asked by opponents, so when are these first deportations under the one-in, one-out rule deal with France actually going to happen? She couldn't say. Now we've got the new Home Secretary saying they are imminent. And we have this new plan, which was given, I thought, a rather lukewarm response from the Defence Secretary, John Healey, on Sky News earlier, for using military properties to get the migrants out of hotels. One of the things that Shabana Mahmood will want to do is really speed up that process, because Yvette Cooper and her Borders and Immigration Minister, Dame Angela Eagle, who's also been moved from the Home Office. They were talking about getting people out of hotels by the next election. Far too slow, said MPs, Labour council leaders. Some of them are even considering going to court in the way that the Tory council Epping Forest did. So in 24 hours, 48 hours, since the dramatic demise of Angela Rayner, we've seen a new cabinet, a tough new Home Secretary, potentially, talking tough and promising action. And there's an old saying, isn't there, in politics, never waste a crisis, turn a crisis into an opportunity. Well, that's what the government is clearly trying to do, to fight back against its opponents, not just on the right, but on the left as well. And here, of course, the unions are demanding, as you might imagine, not just sticking to the manifesto, but implementing the workers' rights legislation in full. There are fears amongst union leaders here that with Angela Rayner gone, of course, they've lost their champion in the cabinet.
John, many thanks indeed. A reminder that Sky News will be hosting the immigration debate in Birmingham on Wednesday, the 10th of September. It will be chaired by Sky's Sir Trevor Phillips, and representatives of the main parties will be in attendance. Scan the QR code that's on the screen now if you'd like to be in the live audience and potentially ask a question. To Ukraine next, where government buildings in the capital Kyiv were damaged for the first time in the biggest ever aerial attack since the war began. Moscow sent a wave of 805 drones and 13 missiles towards Kyiv, killing at least 4 people, including a baby girl. Our international correspondent Alex Rossi has more.
This is the stark reality of Russia's position on Ukraine, for all the talk of diplomacy and Donald Trump's faltering efforts to mediate. The smoke rising here is from the building that houses the Cabinet of Ministers, in the heart of Kyiv's heavily fortified government district. It is yet another major strike on Ukraine's capital, an escalation in a war already marked by countless assaults.
For the first time since the start of full-scale invasion, Russians struck our government headquarters in the centre of Kyiv. You can see the consequences of the attack. It looks like Russia is not seeking peace and is not ready for negotiations.
Authorities in Ukraine say this was the largest aerial attack since the full-scale invasion began. More than 800 drones and decoys launched, along with missiles. And as rescue workers search for survivors, Western officials say Moscow's strategy of targeting civilian areas remains central to its offensive. Firefighters helped the injured through the choking smoke to relative safety. Residents described being jolted awake by powerful explosions that caused widespread destruction.
I was sleeping, heard the explosion, the house shook, got dressed, got out to have a look. Trouble. The 6th floor balcony is on fire. My car is damaged. Well, just the glass was blown out.
I just have no more words left to express what I feel towards Russia. Only expletives, even though I never swear. I don't know any of the words.
And speaking to US media in an interview recorded before the attack, President Zelensky said Russia had no intention of negotiating peacefully.
I always said we can't trust Putin. He plays games, and he's playing games with the United States. Putin's goal is to occupy Ukraine. This is to destroy us, occupied.
Diplomacy in the face of such onslaught seems then a distant prospect. Ukraine is urging allies to deliver even more weapons to defend the country, whilst the United States has suggested it's preparing for further sanctions. For now, any end to this war feels far from near. Alex Rossi, Sky News.
Tonight, President Trump posted what he says is his last warning to Hamas to accept a deal to end the war in Gaza. Everyone wants the hostages home, he wrote on Truth Social. Everyone wants this war to end. The Israelis have accepted my terms. It is time for Hamas to accept as well. I have warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting. This is my last warning. There will not be another one, says President Trump. Well, that social media post came as Donald Trump attended the US Open men's tennis final in New York. This weekend has seen large protests in several US cities over his plans to deploy National Guard troops and immigration agents. Our US correspondent Mark Stone has more.
The president left the White House mid-morning for a day in New York at the tennis, but his post from 24 hours earlier was still echoing.
That's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would you use the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
It was lunchtime on Saturday when the post dropped from the president's social media account. Intentionally provocative, a play on the wartime film Apocalypse Now, repurposed for an American city, and an expansion of his deportation policy. A nod too to the Department of War, because that is what his Defense Department has now been renamed. At the Pentagon late on Friday, workers chiseled away. Defense became war after an Oval Office executive order. Chicago was one of a number of American cities where the streets were full through the weekend. In the shadow of Trump Tower, they protested his presidency.
Chicago is not the narrative that people try and paint it as.
He wants everyone to be afraid. He loves to see that people are afraid.
Here, as in other Democratic-run cities, he is threatening several things. First, to send in the National Guard to quell crime. even though here it has been falling for months now. But his other focus is to send his recruited army of federal immigration agents to find and deport anyone here illegally. The Democratic Party governor of the state where Chicago sits has been repeatedly, explicitly opposed to all this. His response to Trump's tweet, "The President of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city. This is not a joke. This is not normal. Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He's a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator." In the south of the country, in Georgia, the largest single immigration raid to date, 475 people suspected of being illegally in the country detained at a Hyundai factory last Thursday. Most are from South Korea. An agreement has now been reached with the government in Seoul to send them home. The president was in the Rolex box at Flushing Meadows for the tennis final. Intriguingly, the US Tennis Association had asked broadcasters not to show any disruption or reaction from the crowd. In a statement, the association told Sky News this was not a request made by the White House. We regularly ask broadcasters to refrain from showcasing off-court disruptions. As ever, the week ahead, it seems, will form another significant chapter in this presidency. Mark Stone, Sky News in Washington.
Police in central London arrested nearly 900 people yesterday as they protested in support of Palestine Action, which the government proscribed as a terrorist group. The Met Police had to draft in officers from other forces because of the pressure on resources and on the criminal justice system. Oliver Whitfield-Miocic has more now.
And I suddenly saw the police coming over and I thought, uh-oh.
Carolyn Galenta had been speaking to the media when she was detained by police for holding a sign in support of Palestine Action in Parliament Square on Saturday. The daughter of Holocaust survivors says it took her weeks to decide whether she would take part.
I really thought long and hard over this, and I really felt like I had to stand up as a Jew. I had to. I was compelled to do it.
Carolyn was one of 857 people who were arrested in London. There were so many demonstrators that police worked through the night until 9 o'clock in the morning, processing everyone, an operation that lasted 20 hours in total. Supporters of Palestine Action believe the group shouldn't have been proscribed after jets at an RAF base were sprayed with red paint in June, and say the use of terrorism legislation is an abuse of power. Others say the police are simply carrying out their duties.
The police is doing what they are meant to be doing. This is what a democratic policing looks like. When Parliament, a democratic institution, has adopted a law and the government has followed those processes, then that is what the police has to enforce.
Yet the recurring protests and high numbers of arrests have added pressure on the authorities.
For example, the Metropolitan Police has needed to bring in extra officers from other forces to help out, while the already overstretched court system potentially now faces having to fit in an extra 1,000+ trials.
Carolyn was released on bail on condition that she doesn't attend any more Palestine Action protests. But the great-grandma is still working out whether or not she'll comply.
I'm going to say no comment to that question.
Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, Sky News, London.
Thousands of people marched in London today against anti-Semitism. The organisers are calling on the government and other authorities to do more to fight anti-Semitism and extremism. They said anti-Semitism has doubled in less than 5 years to the highest level on record. That may well sound familiar because sirens blared from mobile phones across the UK in a test of the country's national emergency alert system earlier. Around 3 o'clock this afternoon, devices connected to 4G and 5G networks vibrated and made that sound for around 10 seconds, although some people did report delays in the alert or failing to receive it at all. The government had warned about the alert in advance to avoid worrying any recipients. Now to a sport that's offering a pathway to freedom for teenagers in South Sudan who are growing up in the shadow of war. After an 18-year-old basketball prodigy was drafted to the NBA this year, others are trading the front line for the training court. Our Africa correspondent Yusra El-Bahir reports.
This is South Sudan's hope for the future. Young people training through the night, off the streets, and playing to win. These basketball training camps are free for all to join and are a potential pathway to freedom. Everyone here is playing for a scholarship, a career, and an opportunity for a better life. Hey.
Hey, what's up?
How are you? Good morning.
How are you doing? Good morning.
Good. We meet a young hopeful called Peter Oja. Do you need help with those? He towers over me at just 14 years old and has the trophy collection of a seasoned player. I mean, when you were a kid and you were winning these awards, South Sudan was at war. How was it for you as a child playing basketball while the country's in conflict?
Even I remember the time when we in practice inside there in Rolling Foundation, guns began to happen. Even inside there, yeah, the lockers inside over there, not to go out. Yeah, it's kind of risk. You as a kid, you can't be happy when you see guns. You will be in fear, like, it's really bad.
The worst of South Sudan's civil war has passed for now, but life is still difficult for many families here, like Peter's.
There is no one supporting Peter but me. I am his mother and father. If I don't have work, he cannot even go to school or apply for university. My dream is to see him play basketball to the top and even be able to help me one day.
And sometimes if I didn't went to the practice, she would not be happy. She talked to me, why did you don't go for a practice? You have to play hard. So this is what makes me really excited about it from my mom. Yeah. See you later.
It's time for him to train before the morning sun heats up. Peter's coach, Tony, believes he has the potential to be a basketball star and one day join the ranks of South Sudanese athletes playing internationally.
It's a healing for the kids. That's why we are every time with them.
And a lot of these kids grew up during the war, no?
Yeah. Most of these kids, including us, we grew up in the war, and it's traumatizing a lot of us.
This stadium is named after the pioneering South Sudanese NBA player Manute Bol and was built tile by tile by the foundation of British South Sudanese NBA All-Star Luol Deng. The foundation runs these training camps managed on the ground by his sister Arek and brother Deng, both former professional basketball players, extending a lifeline to young people here of all ages.
If you turn them away, what are they going to do? Be in the streets, have nothing to do, be bored. So, and it's also a good way for the older ones to take care of the younger children, the younger siblings, so they bring them here with them. So we cannot turn them away. It's hard.
But how are you paying for all of this? Do you have donors?
We don't have any donors currently. For a long time now, it's been Luol that is funding the foundation in every way that we can.
U.S. aid cuts have ended the little external funding support available, and a U.S. visa ban for South Sudanese citizens has blocked young players from American scholarships that could come with an NBA draft. But their hunger hasn't subsided. They're training for international opportunities wherever they can find them.
We got like 50-50 sponsorship from the foundation, and they provide like most of the stuff, school stuff, like bags, books, laptops, and yeah. I'm in college in Rwanda, Kigali, and I just came back for holidays.
The trainings pause for a critical moment. It's time to show up for South Sudan's men's team, who are competing in the Continental Championship Afrobasket, coached by Luol Deng. Everyone is invested. Basketball has become a powerful force for good here, shaping the country's national identity beyond the specter of civil war.
It has inspired a lot of youth and encouraged us a lot so that they build for us the hope.
Every shot made brings a wave of collective joy. But the competition is tough. And slowly, South Sudan's opponent, Guinea, starts to get ahead. It's a close game and a hard loss, but all part of the journey.
But anyways, at the end of the day, they say that history is not only made through perfect records.
with the failure and the heartbrokenness, and then we win at the end. That will make it even more beautiful. So let me go. You're a poet at this point.
The world's youngest country is banking on its young people to change its fate through discipline, perseverance, and a love of the game. Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky News, Juba.
Well, let's get the rest of the sports news now from Mike at Sky Sports News.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
The club made a great pitch to me, that they wanted me. They gave me a 4-year contract. All the stops were out. They made me feel really welcome.
We arrived at the airport there in Madrid, and there were 50 journalists, cameras, and we thought, oh, they come for this movie star, you know. Suddenly we see, Jesus Christ, Jimmy, it's for you.
It's always difficult losing a great player. Jimmy, for me, was always a world-class striker. Probably not talked about as much, I don't think, as to some of the other great strikers, but I was fortunate enough to play with him.
We obviously made a very good profit on him. If you just take the business transaction, not the football emotion, the transaction was a good deal because we bought him for 2 and we sold him for £12 million.
In 2 years, got 6 times their money. I was not a big earner at the time at the club. So for them, it was a big gain.
He's settling into his new surrounds, the player renamed Judas Floyd Money in the Bank when he was drummed out of Ellen Road. But stories of excessive demands were fictional, according to Atletico's new signing.
I was supposed to stay there. I was supposed to sign a new contract and feel happy. If they can ask 12 million for a player, the rest is all clear.
Were you asking to be the most highly paid player in the Premiership, as we're led to believe?
No, don't believe the figures at all. Don't believe the figures at all.
You didn't want £40,000 a week? Would have been nice, but is that what you were demanding?
That's not what I asked.
Reading the text last night, that was nothing about money from his agent. Well, Jesus, lads, honestly, if that wasn't about money, I don't know, then maybe I'm getting it wrong when he sent me there. A lot of you have written good articles about it. And all I'd like to say is that I've seen quotes of 45,000. I think you're being modest to Jimmy on that one, honestly. I wouldn't like to say, but I think you'd be disappointed if you're only saying that, honestly.
Did you feel you had to speak out publicly for the club?
Yes, you have, because we didn't want to sell a top player. I had one of the best number 9s that you could wish to have. It puts me under pressure then. I've got to go out and buy and put your head on the block to buy a number 9. Did we sell a bad player? No, we sold the top player.
It did disappoint me. How everything went, it made me look bad in front of the fans. It was not necessary. The perception that people have of me, the difficult person, blah, 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 that is never there. I would have tried to find a solution.
What we didn't do is say he was a difficult character. I think we alluded to his desire for more money, or other people can put words around what you attribute to people who are just desperate for cash, and we couldn't afford it given we'd found him in the first place. Maybe naive on my part to believe that players wouldn't have the head turned for cash. So yeah, it was difficult, and I understand why Jimmy would think that we publicly probably let him down, but you've got to manage, and frankly I felt let down as well. We'd just signed him, and I'd offered him 100% pay increase, but he wanted a 300% pay increase, and I couldn't afford it.
That was for me the fuel. That kept me going, that somebody didn't want me, and I now had in the back of my mind, I'm going to show you.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Thank you, Mike, for that cliffhanger. Next, the Pope has declared a British-born Italian teenager described as God's influencer as the first Catholic saint of the millennial generation. Carlo Acutis was born in London and died of leukemia in 2006. He was just 15 years old. Today, Pope Leo presided over his first canonisation ceremony in St Peter's Square. Charlotte Leeming reports.
From London to the Vatican and now the heights of Catholic holiness, Carlo Acutis, who briefly lived in Britain as a baby, being made the sole saint from the digital age by Pope Leo on Sunday.
Beatus Petrum Georgium Frassati et Caro.
Nicknamed God's influencer, Acutis used technology to spread the teachings of the Church.
He became very keen on using the internet to pass the message on, in fact, to millions of people he did. He set up a website about Jesus in the Holy Communion, and this took off.
The youngster had emulated Mother Teresa by helping the sick and the poor before he died from leukemia, aged just 15. That's when his parents say he started miraculously curing people, which the Vatican requires before a sainthood can be considered.
The first miracle did the day of the funeral, a woman with a breast cancer that had to start the chemotherapy, prayed Carlo, and she was healed completely.
Several devotees claim that he helped their relatives at a time of need.